there is a peculiar dread that comes not from darkness itself, but from watching sacred things slowly turn toward shadow. Here, in these festering depths of sanctuary, we witness such perversions, where holy purpose rots into profane practice, and guardians become jailers of their own corrupted souls. Beneath the festering fields, beyond the broken fences and skeletal remains of homesteads of the Bloodmoor, lies a scar in the earth, a gaping abomination. The Den of Evil. Its entrance resembles a suppurating wound in the earth's flesh, framed by strange occult tribal markings, symbolic warnings of the putrefaction brewing below. A miasma of decay seeps from its depths, carrying the stench of rendered flesh and fermented viscera, while sounds that should never exist in nature echo through its chambers. Wet, gurgling screams that speak of endless agony, chittering whispers that promise eternal suffering, and the sounds of meat being torn from bone. This is no mere cave carved by nature's patient hand. The Den of Evil festers like a spiritual lesion, a nexus where hell's corruption pools and congeals like black pus in an eternal abscess. Here, reality has grown diseased and thin, stretched to bursting by accumulated evil. Shadows writhe like maggots in carrion, while liquid that might be water or might be something far fouler drips from stone with the consistency of gelatinous blood. Each breath drawn fills the lungs with air that tastes of corrosion and burnt flesh, the cloying perfume of damnation itself. The walls weep with a viscous Icarus substance that glistens like rancid oil in the crimson-stained darkness. Crude totems fashioned from splintered bone and desiccated sinew line the twisting passages, adorned with strips of leather that might once have been human skin. The deeper one ventures, the thicker the air becomes, heavy with the residue of countless atrocities, each step drawing the unwary further into an abyss that hungers for fresh suffering. Akara's words echo with grim certainty. This place must be cleansed completely and utterly. No monster can be allowed to survive, no dark corner can remain unsearched, no shadow left uninspected. For the den serves as a beacon to darker forces, a lighthouse casting shadows instead of light, drawing hell's influence ever deeper into the mortal realm. Only through total purification can this spiritual scourge be excised from the land. Without its cleansing, without eradicating every single twisted mockery of life lurking within its vile depths, no soul shall stand against what lies ahead. The weak will fall, the unready will be unmade, and only those who rise in defiance of this first true darkness will have any hope of pressing forward. The path between light and shadow demands more than mere courage. It requires a worthiness born of discipline, an equilibrium forged in silence, and an unyielding resolve tested in depths where wisdom and horror become one. A foreboding truth that echoes through every putrid breath that rises from the corruption before us. Among the den's most terrible denizens lurch the fallen shaman, their twisted forms a scorn of their former glory. Once proud sorcerer priests of hell's legions, they now shuffle through the darkness like diseased vultures, their spines twisted into painful angles, their flesh hanging in loose folds like melted wax. Their staffs pulse with hellfire that illuminates the festering sores and weeping lesions that cover their bodies, eternal marks of Diablo's punishment. Through dark sorcery, they tear the souls of their fallen minions back from death's embrace, forcing them to fight again and again, each resurrection more agonizing than the last. They conduct their dark rituals in these chambers where the walls themselves seem to breathe, their forms casting writhing shadows that take on lives of their own. When they perform their resurrections, their throats distend like those of serpents swallowing prey, disgorging sounds that should not exist, syllables that cause listeners' teeth to vibrate in their skulls and blood to congeal in their veins. And when they move, the air around them ripples with waves of corrupt power that cause organic matter to twist and change, carrying spores of evil that burrow into living tissue, planting seeds of corruption that bloom into nightmarish growths within their victims. Their subordinates, the Fallen Imps, scurry through the tunnels like plague rats, their razor-sharp claws clicking against stone slick with substances best left uncontemplated. These degenerates spawn attack in frenzied packs, their mouths filled with needle-like teeth that drip with caustic saliva. When their numbers thin, they flee shrieking into darkness, leaving behind their dismembered brethren whose bodies twitch and spasm as the shaman's necromantic powers draw them back to unholy life. Yet perhaps most horrifying, their presence announcing itself through tremors in the ground, not merely from their footfalls, but from the earth itself, trying desperately to recoil from their touch, are the Gargantuan Beasts that stalk the den's larger chambers. These living engines of destruction lumber through the darkness on malformed limbs, their very presence causing reality to buckle and warp around them. These creatures, who once served as sacred guardians of nature's most hallowed places, now stand as monuments to corruption's ability to twist even the most noble of purposes. Their flesh undulates with parasitic masses that migrate beneath their skin like schools of blind fish in a dark sea, while their eyes burn with hellfire that seems to cook their brains within their own skulls. A perpetual reminder of how hell's influence corrupts from within. These maws, which once sang songs of protection and harmony with the natural world, now produce only sounds that cause reality itself to shudder. Ancient texts speak of how these creatures were once bound to the earth through sacred pacts, serving as protectors of places where natural magic ran strong. But when Tristram's corruption spread, these bonds became chains of torment, transforming their connection to nature into a conduit for hell's influence. Now they serve as living weapons of the fallen shamans, their former role as guardians perverted into that of jailers. In their eyes, if one dares to look deep enough, still burns the faintest spark of awareness, a tragic consciousness that remembers what they once were, trapped within bodies that have become prisons of eternal torment. In the den's deepest recesses, where even darkness seems to rot and putrefy, an old mining post stands as silent witness to ultimate horror. Here gather the undead, their decaying forms still wearing the tattered remnants of mining gear. Rotting organs spill from split abdomens, and empty eye sockets weep a thick black fluid that hisses when it touches stone. They cluster around their master in grotesque genuflection, forming an honor guard of horrific decay around the den's dark patriarch. Corpsefire. Corpsefire stands as the den's ultimate abomination, his form suffused with sickly blue radiance that pulses like gangrene given light. His flesh simultaneously rots and regenerates, creating an eternal cycle of decay that fills the air with the sweet, sick stench of perpetual decomposition. A being whose very existence mocks the boundary between life and death. Some say that this creature may once have been another adventurer, seeking glory, or a rogue defender fleeing corruption, the subject of some sort of terrible necromantic experiment. However, the mining equipment scattered about suggests that he and his undead host were once simple workers, raised to unholy service by the fallen shamans. Deeper legends whisper that Corpsefire was not merely another victim of the corruption, but rather its first willing embrace within the den of evil. As the tales go, the foreman of the mining operation was the first to hear the seductive whispers seeping through cracks they should never have opened. Promises of power and immortality that wormed their way into his dreams. The fallen shamans, upon breaching into sanctuary, found in him a soul already half turned to shadow, a mind prepared to accept their twisted offerings. Some say he willingly sacrificed his fellow miners to the darkness, leading them deeper into the tunnels where the barriers between worlds had grown thin, offering their souls to fuel the shaman's dark rituals. Others claim he was merely the first to break under the corruption's influence, his sanity splintering as hell's power leaked into the mortal realm. The truth lies buried beneath layers of time and terror, but what remains certain is that his transformation was no simple act of necromancy. The azure flames that wreath his form are said to be fragments of his own corrupted soul, torn apart and reassembled by infernal powers that even the fallen shamans fear to fully comprehend. His existence serves as both warning and anchor, a living testament to the price of ambition and the wages of betrayal. Each miner he personally led to their doom now serves in his honor guard of undeath, their souls bound to his by chains of guilt and corruption that even death cannot sever. Whatever their ultimate circumstances, however, their true identity is now lost to shadow and pain. But even this blackest heart of corruption must yield before determined purification. As the final monster falls, as the last corrupt spirit is banished, light pierces the den's oppressive gloom for the first time in an age. The air clears of its poisonous taint. Shadows retreat to natural corners, and the crushing weight of evil lifts like a fever breaking. The den's cleansing represents more than mere victory. It stands as proof that even the most corrupted places can be reclaimed, that no darkness lies beyond redemption's reach. Though the den's walls will forever bear witness to the horrors once housed within their embrace, its cleansing serves as testament that light can pierce any darkness, that evil's hold can be broken, and that power without virtue breeds only corruption. Sacred duty must be upheld even in the face of ultimate darkness. Our great work, though never truly complete, must stand as beacons of hope long after we have passed into silence. For in these crucibles of terror and darkness, we learn that each victory over corruption becomes both memorial to past sacrifice and foundation for future triumph. Each brave deed echoing forward through time to inspire those who will continue our eternal vigil against the endless night. And that even ground soaked in corruption can be reclaimed by those who possess the wisdom, strength, and courage to face the darkness and the will to overcome it.